depends on what he's doing and the scale of, his operations.
Welcome to UK Property Secrets. Every morning between 8:30 and 9:30, we're doing on Clubhouse an audio-based app for discussing various subjects connected with property. This is the first time I'm videoing this, and like to see what your thoughts are. It's very much a ad hoc show where we think about what's to cover in the day itself. We also have real life things happening, like my son in the background, as you might just heard. Cool. Sorry, back to you, Patricia.
I was more or less done.
Excellent. Paul.
Oops, sorry, lost the app. I think it's important that we do good with our business. If you can't give back to people who need it, then obviously there's something wrong. We support businesses. We don't actually give charitable donations as a business, but we do support businesses in the developing world, which I've probably talked about before, but I've just checked. So we supported over 1,100 small business owners across the developing world to grow their businesses through a loan scheme. So although it's not a donation, it's a loan, and they repay the loan, and then it goes back to somebody else, and goes back to somebody else. So it's a pot that keeps growing and developing as their businesses develop. And I think, that's my way of helping some parts of the developing world get out of poverty. And I think, we've seen what, everybody's done. Andrea did some fantastic work through Just Giving fairly recently, early this year, last year. And I think, if you've got a heart, we all do what we can, either giving money or time or both. It's important. I think also that, in the case of, if you're investing money in a property development company and you're sitting in the Channel Islands with your billions, thinking, shall I buy that house in Knightsbridge or wherever it is, or shall I put some money into developments? And this opportunity comes up where you can do good, still get your return, still invest in a proper development business. It's going to beat off the competition in your mind. So I think it's, although it's not done for PR, I think it does help.
I guess what he doesn't also cover is the subject of how much does he have those investors actually made. They're obviously 5 million is what they've invested so far. It doesn't mention anything about the projects that they've actually taken on, and what other. That's what I think is missing from it. But maybe the reporter didn't want to sort of do anything more to beefing up his business. Anyone else want to comment on this? Mark, is it something which you would be encouraging? And do you think it's a good way of just getting investors on board? Or is there going to be enough genuine return out there for people to be interested in making something with this? Silence. No one else wants to comment? Cool.
I just want to say, I think I'm actually really encouraged by this, because I give charitable donations in my own personal capacity, but I don't actually do it, for any of my businesses, which this is now challenging me to think about, because it is something, like Paul said, that we should be doing. Not we should be doing, but if we can do it, then we should really think, seriously about doing it. Because there are so many charities out there that can, do with, extra help. So why I've not done it for my businesses, I've no idea. So yes, thank you for sharing that.
Okay, so I'll comment at this point. For the last 20 years, we've always done it, and we've done it under the business. But it's quite an interesting one for me, because we've changed the charities over the years. And we've made a point of saying, some charities have come back to us and said, are you going to do the same this year? And we've said no, and we've kind of tried to change it from local and mixed local and national charities. So even down to so the Lord Mayor's parade last this year was quite an interesting one, because John and I.
So we're now going to get my dog out.
Parade, but we won it this year, and it was £15,000, which went to other charities. So she raises money to do the events, and then the events raise the money to give to charities. So it's almost like charity upon charity. Yeah. So I kind of don't ever underestimate the value of charities, and for a few years before COVID, and I need to say that before COVID, I've been part of the whole Christian aid type thing, because obviously I go to church, and I actually believe fundamentally in empowering women. And you've heard me talk about this before, and I believe that if you empower a village to actually do something that is going to enable them to be more sustainable, then that's where my objectives are. So, yeah. I kind of believe in local, national and international charities. And if you've got it and you've got spare, then sharing it around makes a difference. Back to you guys.
Cool. And Jojo?
Yeah, I'll just quickly chip in. Initially, when you started talking, Colin, I thought the intention is the most important thing. What do they intend to do by this? Is it avoiding tax, or is it, what's their intention? But now, as I listen to the panel, to be honest, more than the intention, for me, the most important is the impact. Sometimes we think, okay, we have these people that donate and they throw parties to raise funds. Sometimes it's for their own personal benefit. Maybe they want to look good, they want to feel good. But ultimately, is that important? If the impact is big, then I think it justifies what they did it for in the first place. So, as Paul mentioned, thank you for mentioning that, Paul. Yes, every year, especially in December, I think it's an Albanian tradition. Before New Year's Eve, we always give for a reason or another. And every year I take on a different purpose. Once it was National Autistic Society, another time I volunteered for Crisis. Last year was, where was it? Solace Women's Aids, which is similar to what Louise was saying about empowering women, actually the ones that are coming out of abusive environments. I do that every year, but I always do it similar to Patricia, on a personal level. I've never related it to my business, but to be honest, there is something called corporate social responsibility, which I'm not a corporate, but what I mean is we can all link it to a certain percentage of our profits to go to a cause. Most businesses that are quite big and quite responsible, they are doing it anyway. I know the fintech company that I work for, they do it as well. I can't remember exactly what they're doing, but they're helping planting trees. There are a few projects out there helping small businesses. So yeah, I basically challenge myself in this conversation. So ultimately, I think the intention is actually not that relevant, as long as the impact is big. Back to you, Colin.
No, thank you.
And then can I also jump in, Colin? And I hope you,
Patricia,
forgive me for doing this, but can I please, since we're talking about charity giving, since we're doing, talking about all of this, please, people, if you are considering it, can you have a look at Centrepoint? I think personally, It's an amazing charity. It helps the homeless, and this is a plug for them. I'm not connected with them in any way whatsoever, so please don't think I'm doing this out of self-interest. But it really, it's charity for the homeless. Very, very different to shelter that just makes noise. It actually does. It provides rooms for these, young and well, I see them as being young. They might not be young, I don't know, but for homeless people anyway. And it doesn't cost that much. So people, if you're thinking about it, please do go, just Google Centrepoint. And if you can give a donation, do a monthly thing. It doesn't have to be very much, but every little helps. So, that's my shout out for Centrepoint. Thank you.
Cool, thank you for that. Let's move on to another article if we move on to the final subject for today. Okay, so a war on landlords, a reader writes. Landlord Today receives a number of unsolicited contributions from readers. These are always welcome, but a few are well argued and impassionate, as one we've received recently from Mr. Peter Marshall, a former foreign correspondent and long-time journalist and author. No doubt he's been able to write well. We are reproducing it without an amendment below, thanks to him. So obviously he's given his consent to this. So I'll read it out verbatim as well. The right of a sole trader to be treated the same as any other form of business. Since time immemorial, it has been enshrined in our way of life that our norms, institutions and laws, that business is our society, has been legitimately conducted in three alternative forms: a sole trader, a partnership and a company. The sole proprietorship, phone call coming in, has always been regarded as the most appropriate form where there is only one proprietor and partnership or the limited company. Where there is more that fact. In fact, individuals and business on their own cannot incorporate, as the latter requires a minimum of 2 shareholders. Furthermore, certain kinds of businesses are not permitted to become limited companies. In the past, the mortgage companies would not lend to the latter entity. Many will not do even so today. The important point I'm making is that sole trader business is and always has been as acceptable as just as much a legal entity as a limited company, and just as much a legal entity as under UK law, and therefore deserves the same rights and privileges. The right to set all business expenses against tax. The long established and legally accepted business model in our society has always been that expenses are deducted from the revenues to arrive at profit, and the tax is charged on the latter, revenue minus costs incurring and generating those revenues. The denial of rights. A few years ago, George Osborne, then a Chancellor of Exchequer, declared war on one sector of the UK society and set to deprive them of their rights and privileges, depriving them out of business by rendering their businesses financially unviable and forcing some of them into bankruptcy. I can witness that. So that sector is private landlords operating as sole traders. He did so by disallowing them to deduct their main costs as revenues to arrive at the calculation of profit. Therefore, sorry, still there? I've got a phone call coming in again. Therefore, effectively taxing them on their costs as well as any residential profits. The other sector of the population whose landlords have been incorporating themselves into limited companies were not treated the same. They were allowed to continue to deduct their interest payments from the revenues before the tax was computed. This amounts to an unequal and discriminatory treatment of sole traders. Even worse, when he prevented sole traders from joining the incorporated sector by slapping on a 3% premium on stamp duty land tax if they did, thus making it financially impossible for them to do so. Unless they got a good tax advisor, maybe we should contact him. This move will not cruelly and unfairly affect one sector and population. It also advantages the other sector. The article goes on. I will not read it further. You'll be pleased to know, because it clearly is his anger at this continuation of his impact. Maybe it's only recently did he actually feel the effect of his tax, and he didn't have an advisor advising him for the last 5 years what his problem would be in 5 years' time, because it's been a slow drip with the 20% impact being hit. And maybe he's certainly ill-advised to incorporate avoiding those 3%. But nevertheless, I thought it would be a quick share to make from everyone. Whether anything's going to ever happen for these, I don't know. Certainly, we've not. Remember last week we talked about having enough in a petition to actually discuss it at government, and I think there's a little bit too little, too late. Is my own thoughts behind this, but it's worth highlighting again that certainly anyone who's say highly geared, those that have got recent interest, recently recently set up their business in sole name in the last few years, or not, the property values haven't gone up, so particularly flats would be highlighting there, and they got 75% mortgages. They would be in a situation previously where they were cash flow positive, still cash flow potentially positive based pre-tax figures, but post-tax they are cash flow negative, i.e. they have to put money in to make that property investment work. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that flag, and it is an element of injustice, but whether our voices will actually make any difference is on the matter. Who would like to comment?
Me.
Go for it.
Okay, Imran put something up on UK Property Secrets this week, and it made me actually stop and read it. So it was a piece of paper, it was one sheet, and it gave an indication of interest rates and the actual impact with tax implications, and exactly what you said. It was almost like, do you know when you have a watershed moment or the penny drops? It was like, bloody hell, Imran, you're often on the money. I don't know where you are today, but it really made me sit and think. And if people don't do their figures right and they go for this, 75% loan to value, and don't do their tax implications, then they are going to be at a loss, right? And I'm not a money's person. And what Imran, I'm very visual, and what Imran did was put up a piece of paper with figures on it, and the figures were very, very clear. He just compared one with another and the tax implications. So back to you, Colin. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it is frightening for people, and it's also, I guess, to some extent, frightening that this person's not writing about this 5 years ago, when this change occurred. He's just kind of accepted it, and but maybe you didn't get advice to move the change. But okay, well, we've talked long enough about areas of the news. I will also be trying to do some occasional video clips as well, and I also did say in the give you full warning as well, because it being Easter, we're probably going to go a little bit longer today because I think there's a lot that we can cover. So we're going to talk toys. We talked a little bit about Easter. So toys, so those what I mean by this is those electronic things that we buy, we carry around with us. Maybe you put them in a handbag or your special drawer in your bedroom. I'm not talking about one area, but I'm talking about what you use to go and on your property each day. What do you carry around with you? What do you carry around with each week? What gadgets and gizmos do you like to use in making your business work more effectively? And I don't want to go first, but I was hoping Ian would join us because he's an area of his interest. But what gadgets do you use when you go out with your property? Patricia, you have an armor, you have a toolbox of tools, I know, in the past. So tell us what toys do you like to play with?
For me, they're usually sort of like image capturing devices. So, and my most important one is actually my phone, because of the camera it has on it. It takes amazing pictures. And then, and I suspect the one that you have in mind is my 360-degree camera thing, which I love using. with these things, and why I like them, and in fact my inventory person actually uses his 360-degree camera. We've got the same one, incidentally, to support his inventory report, because and I love using them to actually do virtual viewings as opposed to video viewings, because with a 360 you can literally walk around that room at your own pace. You can zoom in on areas, you can minimize them if the quality is good enough, and it literally just captures things as they would have been when that picture was taken. So I absolutely love that. I think they're probably the only toys that I also indulge in a really powerful laptop, but that's mainly for my kind of podcast creations, and every now and again like video clips, and yeah, I don't think anything more than that. But personally, sorry, I had to go personal. The things that I love the most, are reading devices. And if I anything good, I tend to upgrade my Kindles. And I don't actually use Kindle that much because I use the Kindle app on my phone, on my iPads. But I can't resist buying an amazing Kindle, and that's me.
Excellent. Who wants to go next? Paul, what do you have in amongst your collection of things? Paul's on the end of a gadget. Go, Louise. Yep.
I know, Paul. You can go.
Okay, sorry. I was just half over here with a log in my arms. Basically my phone and my laptop. I've just been lucky enough to upgrade to a new MacBook Air. It's amazing. And an old iPhone 12. Which still does the job perfectly well. It'll need upgrading in a year or two, but I don't subscribe to the annual upgrade thing. I upgrade as and when I need to, and I find that good quality devices seem to last quite well, so I don't just replace them straight away. That's pretty much it, really. That sorts me out. Those two things and a pair of reading glasses that I have to have all the time now around my person, and a pair of tinted reading glasses so I can actually see the screen in bright sunshine, because I like to spend time in sunshine if I possibly can. And they're my useful gadgets. That's pretty much me. I can run business, property business, and our own stuff on that basis.
Excellent. Louise?
Okay, so I can't ever do without my phone. And as much as a gadget, I realised that it has so much in it. And about 6-8 weeks ago, when I lost every single contact and every single photograph, I realised that I photograph my buildings, and when I do walk rounds and inspections and things like that, I use the camera. So I know I've got the 360, and it's just another gadget at the moment that's just sat around. But I tell you what I found useful very recently. I have a damp meter and an electrical, where you can check electrical cables going down walls. Now, why would I need that? Because I'm changing buildings and I want to know where the electrical runs go. And and I want to know if walls are damp or if they're leaking and things like that. And the reason I want to know it is that when I've got a builder saying to me, right, I'm going to pull this wall down, or I'm going to change that, and I'm going to change that because it's damp and stuff, I just want a second to check it. Oh my God, I must sound like a real nerd. But I suppose, and I want, when like my birthday is coming up, I want one of those tape measures that do a line on the wall and tell you how far away you are. I don't know what they're called. The laser measures. And I think Patricia's got one because she used the laser to do some lines in her latest apartment. And I thought it was really impressive because they were immaculately straight. And I just think gadgets are fun, yeah, but I think the most important gadget for me is my phone. I've realised my business, and that is wherever I am in the world. I just run bits from here. The apps that I use now are, so integral to what I do. I realise that I'm actually considering a second work phone now. I'm seriously thinking of replicating 2 phones. And I was with somebody at the weekend who naturally has 2 phones. And that's because her life is so very public. She has a private phone and a public phone. And